Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Sharks for Kids Marine Science Hangout. My name is Joe Grabowski. I'll be your host for today. For those who don't know, Sharks for Kids is all about bringing ocean and shark conservation into classrooms around the world through outreach, through education, through adventure. If you haven't been to sharksforkids.com, please check it out. You'll find all kinds of educational resources, interviews with really cool shark scientists, great videos, anything you could want for your sharky needs. So today's Hangout, I'm really excited to have Vicky Vásquez joining us today. Vicky is a graduate student at Moss Landing Marine Labs under the Pacific Shark Research Center. She also volunteers as the founding deputy director of Ocean Research Foundation, which is a student program, and an MC for the student programs of International Ocean Film Festival. She had a hand in the discovery of the ninja lanternshark. She studies the soupfin shark in San Francisco Bay, and she's also a field assistant on a sevengill shark population study. So Vicky, it sounds like you're pretty darn busy.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, it's a blast to have you today. I know you're going to share some of your experiences studying deep sea sharks. So if you're ready to go, let's jump into it.
All right, great. Well, thanks for that introduction. So I have a slide PowerPoint ready for you guys, and it's going to have all these really cool images of deep sea sharks. And the thing that's really cool about my lab is that we are really into lost sharks. So let me explain to you what that is. I want you guys to think about this, and we can do a show of hands, so that way I know if you're familiar with these. Who's heard of a great white shark? Yeah, see. Hammerhead shark. Tiger shark. Okay, now, who's heard of a honeycomb cat shark? Who's heard of a ghost shark? What about a skate? So what you guys might have noticed in your room is sometimes people had their hands up for those last three types of sharks I mentioned, but not everybody. Not like when you talk about a great white shark or a hammerhead. And so what my lab is interested in doing is spreading the word about these lesser known species. Now, what's really cool about these lesser known species is that some of them are still being discovered. So that is what I wanted to talk to you all about today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen with you, so that way we can get into these really cool sharks, and then you can ask me all the questions you want. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you. And let me find the presentation. Great. Here we go on discovering lost sharks. So, like I said before, lost sharks are these lesser known species, but I just want to warn you that if you try to look up what a lost shark is on the internet, you might find things about sci-fi movies or this TV show from a really long time ago called Lost that had sharks on it, but that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about things like this right here is an article about lost sharks. But I bet everybody knows exactly what species is right there, right? You can go ahead, I can't hear you, but go ahead and yell it out loud if you know exactly what species that is. Because I bet you all said hammerhead. But here's the thing, this right here, this is a real example of a lost shark. So my point is that this idea of lost sharks is so difficult for people to understand that they don't always get it right when we're talking about these lesser known species. So that's why you saw that article with the hammerhead, when a really much better picture is this funny thing here. Now this is a ghost shark. And what I want to talk to you guys about next is something that's happening in my lab, and it's going crazy on the media right now. My lab found a new ghost shark for the very first time off of the Pacific Ocean by California. It's the pointy-nosed blue chimera. Now, I just want to clarify, this shark has been discovered before. But the thing was that when they first found it, it was all the way on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, so about near New Zealand. So the fact that they found it for the first time closer to California was a big deal. But what's even cooler, and what I'm about to show you guys, so everybody get ready, this is going to be the very first video ever of the pointy-nosed blue chimera. So that means that even when they discovered it for the first time in New Zealand, they never had underwater footage of it alive. This was filmed by a group near Moss Landing, that's where I go to school, called MBARI, and they're really good at taking deep sea video. So here we go. For the very first time, deep sea footage of the pointy-nosed blue chimera. Oops, sorry about that. I was trying to make sure that I had the volume up. Volume's up. Okay, there you guys go.
And Hawaii, 6 observations of a large deep-sea chimera, identified as Hydrolagus trolli, were documented. These records are the only images of this rare species in its natural habitat and reveal a significant in the northern hemisphere. This species was named in honor of Alaskan artist Ray Troll, whose fascination for this weird group of fish has inspired some of his artwork. Chimera skeletons are composed of cartilage, not bone, a character that together with sharks and rays. They are known informally as, but unlike sharks, rows of teeth, chimeras have non-replaceable tooth plates composed of dense minerals and an upper jaw that is fused to their skull. Chimeras using a combination of physical features, including coloration, it can be difficult to distinguish between species due to subtle differences in these characteristics. Pointy-nosed 2002 from 23 specimens captured off New Caledonia at depth of 6,000 to 2,000 meters. This species is by Eastern Pacific off Australia, New Zealand, and New Caledonia until the Monterey Bay Research Institute filmed them off the west coast of Hawaii, sand and seamounts, and Monterey Canyon off California. These jewels occurring over rock, suggesting that this species may prefer this habitat. This was unexpected because ghost sharks are usually found over sedimented seafloor. We refer as Hydrolagus sea. The sea with indicate these specimens most closely resemble the species Hydrolagus. In order to physical characteristics and conduct DNA analyses so we can compare it with other these species off California. If further analysis were to reveal that these fishes are not Hydrolagus trolli, they must. This is for exploration still await. This.
So Lonnie was one of the people in the scientific paper that just came out about that new species of ghost shark. The other people on the paper were my professor, Dr. Dave Ebert, and one of my lab mates, Amber Reichert. So the cool thing about my lab is that is not the first time that we've helped uncover a little bit more about a lost shark. Like I said before, lost sharks, it isn't just about finding out more information about these lesser known species, it's discovering new ones. So this is a new species my lab discovered, a torpedo ray. That means that this species has these electrical pulses, so they also are called like electrical rays. Another species of brown chimera, or I'm sorry, another species of chimera, this one's the brown chimera. Now, the cool thing about discovering a new species is that when it's official, you get to name it. So the lab mate that described this new species named it Carophila because it's after her parents, Carol and Phil, which I thought was really cool. My professor named a species of saw shark. Remember that joke I made about what kind of sharks like Home Depot? Well, a saw shark is one of them, and he named this one after his niece, Lana. We also have a new species of barbed wire tailscape. Now, the other thing about these lesser known lost sharks is people always think that they are talking about true sharks, but it's also these other animals like this skate that looks like a stingray, and we call them flat sharks to get people a lot more interested in them. And then this is another deep sea shark called the dusky snout cat shark. And so my lab has discovered about 15% of all new species described in the last decade. Pretty crazy. What I want to tell you guys now, it was what it was like for me to describe a new species. It was the coolest thing I ever got to be a part of. And it started with a little jar like this. A lot of times when I talk to people about discovering a new species, they think that maybe I was underwater and then I turned this boulder while I was diving and then boom, all of a sudden there's this new species, but that's not what happened. It was actually a jar just like this, sitting in a museum for 5 years. And then I pulled out something that looked like this. After 5 years in a jar, you're not looking so good. This is a picture of that very same species, completely fresh, right when it got pulled out of the water. So you can see that I had a lot of problems to deal with. But by using my eyes and being very, very careful, I look for things like the dorsal fins, these spines that you see, and all these little dots that you see. It's kind of hard to tell, but they actually help this species glow in the dark. And so based on these characteristics, what I looked at was a group of sharks. So I knew that this was probably a dogfish, but as you can see from this slide, there's tons of dogfish, but not all of them have 2 dorsal fins. You see that one's got 1. Not all of them have spines. You see this one doesn't, but that one does. And based on all that, I knew I had a species of lantern shark, which was kind of cool, but check out that number right there. There are 46 species of lantern sharks. So I just wanted to point out some cool things about them though. Some of them are really small. Like this picture you see, that is a full-grown lantern shark. In fact, the smallest shark in the entire world is a type of lantern shark. And the other cool thing, as you can see from this photo over here where it's blue, is that these sharks glow in the dark, and that's how they get their name, lantern shark. It's a form of bioluminescence, which I think is super, super cool. But of course, like I said, that did not stop my problems. So I had to look, like I said, using my eyes very carefully at things like their teeth, because these animals, lantern sharks, were further grouped into different types of genera based on their teeth. And it turned out only one group had teeth where the top looked totally different from the bottom. So I knew I had one of these species right here because of the fact that the shark that I had in this jar had teeth like this. But check out that number there. There's 37 of these species. So I had to look at more stuff like their skin. They have these scales on their skin that are all very unique. They have the parts of them that glow that are very unique as well. And so through all of that, I was able to figure it out from the group lantern sharks. I was able to whittle it down to 9 species. So think about going from like 37 down to 9. That was already a huge success as far as I felt, but you can see that's still a lot of sharks. So then I started looking at the different color patterns that they had. So you can see this one over here is called a pink lantern shark. This one over here has some really distinct colors. The top and the bottom don't look the same. And based on that, I knew that I had only these 3 species left that I had to narrow it down, because you can see these 3 species kind of have this all grayish black color. So this is where math comes in. I don't know how many of you love math. If you love math, make a lot of noise. Hopefully some of you made some noise, I can't tell. If you hate math, make a lot of noise. Again, hopefully some of you made some noise. But my point is that I have a love-hate relationship with math, and this is where I realized how important it was, because what I had to do was take all these little measurements, and with these numbers of knowing how long the nose was, how long the tail was, I could prove based on those measurements that my shark had a very unique size and that there was no way it could be any of those other species. So here's where the cool part came in. I knew that this species that was brand new was something that I would get to name. So I was really excited about that. And what I want to show you now is another video. This one is from the California Academy of Sciences, because the California Academy of Sciences, which is located in San Francisco, is where I was to help discover this new species. So they created this little video about what it was like. I came sitting in these jars here at the Academy.
We had these specimens that came up from Central America, the Pacific coast. There's not really, it's one of the few areas in the world go out. That's where the Indiana Jones get to go out and do something. But more often, find new species, and that's where the work.
And figure out what and why. So taking all this from the eye, between the dorsal fins, all prove your point that it is in fact a unique species. So once that's where the fun, getting a chance to name it. So Dr. Ebert came up with that one, naming it after. So the idea behind that was 20 of John.
Peter Betsy spent a lot of conservation, Vicky outreach, working with kids and everything. They're really clever.
The other thing we need to come up with is the common name, and the common ninja lanternshark. Because the shark is all black, so presumably you can kind of say it's stealthier than other lantern sharks. A lot of sharks, you're talking about something that's big. This shark still,
It's pretty cool.
so I wanted to show you guys that footage just because it reiterated everything I was just telling you guys. But also, see if I can get this screen to move on to the next one. Nope, it just wants to show it to you again. Hold on. There we go. So those were the people that helped me name this species. Those are my little cousins. And I just wanted to show you that video to reiterate everything that I was saying before. It's a lot of work to try to describe one of these new species, and it's really important because it helps us figure out what's going on with the ecology in these places that it's really hard for people to get to. But then that whole lost shark problem I was telling you about, you go through all this trouble to describe a new species and then it gets forgotten about like all the others. It was crazy to me to find out that there was 37 species of these glowing sharks and not a lot of people knew about them. And as I started looking at the names, I realized there were like 2 brown lantern sharks, different species, but their common name was the same. 2 lined lantern sharks, again, the species, the shark themselves were different, but their common name was the same. So that is why you're looking at this silly photo of my cousins here, because I knew I needed some help. I knew I wanted this shark to be special, and I did not want anyone to forget that it existed. So they're the ones that came up with ninja lantern shark. And again, that's the common name. The scientific name that we talked about before, naming it after the guy who came up with Jaws, we thought that was a really interesting thing because here we are with this problem with everyone thinking that sharks are dangerous, and it's because of Jaws. What a lot of people don't know is that Peter Benchley spent so much time after that movie trying to protect sharks and really demystify all those incorrect ideas about how dangerous they were. So it was really cool to name this shark after him and try to get people to realize all the good that he did for sharks, and also kind of use all that crazy fame that Jaws had to give some attention to this little guy, this little glowing shark. So see if I can get the PowerPoint to move to the next slide. I want to tell you guys about what I'm doing next. I am moving from the deep sea to a little bit more shallow. I'm going to be looking at, for my thesis, the lost sharks of San Francisco Bay. Not a lot of people realize that we have over 5 different regular visitors of elasmobranchs. So that's sharks and their relatives, like the bat rays, stingrays. And what people think about when they think about San Francisco is, again, something like a great white shark. In fact, if you look up shark in the word San Francisco, you're probably going to see this really funny photo of a great white shark that's way bigger than they actually are, trying to eat the Golden Gate Bridge. What I want to do is figure out what is life like for these other lesser known species that actually spend a lot of their lives in the bay, way more time than these occasional great white shark visitors. Now, the conditions in San Francisco Bay are really tricky, and so that's why you see this little picture right here of a white box and this thing up here that says Open Explorer. So this group is going to be helping me explore what the underwater world looks like with video. It's super cool, and if things go the way that I hope down the line, I might even be able to share this video with students just like you guys. So you don't have to come to the water just to learn about these sharks and see some really cool underwater footage. Now, the last thing I wanted to end with for you guys is just how you can help. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can help the oceans, and more specifically, you can help lost sharks. So one of the things you can do is just spread the word on lost sharks. So for anyone that uses social media or have parents that use social media, you can always use the hashtag #LostSharks so that people can realize all the cool news that's out there and all the really cool discoveries going on. And the funnest thing about a lot of these lost sharks is, like the Ninja Lantern shark, they have super cool names. So this is a really cool cartoon put on by a group called Support Our Sharks, and all of these sharks actually exist. Like I was mentioning to you guys before, there really is a lollipop cat shark. There's a mouse cat shark, there's a green lantern shark, there's a pajama shark. Now, of course, they don't look exactly like these cartoons. Let me give you an idea of what they really look like. They're in the same order. That's a lollipop cat shark. Over there, we have that green lantern shark. Here's that pajama shark. This is the mandarin shark. That over there is the, I always forget. That one was the, let's go back really fast. Yeah, the mouse cat shark. And this one over here on the side is the mud cat shark. Now, I want you to notice how I keep going back and forth between the cartoon and the shark. May not totally look like a mouse to you, which is why I forget. Maybe your pajamas don't look exactly like this, but you can see that the fun part is that when you name a species, you get to come up with the thing that you think is the most obvious. Now, this one to me definitely looks like a green lantern shark, so that one helps. Now, the other thing that you can do, which might sound super crazy, is actually avoiding single-use plastic. This is a huge problem in the oceans. The more you can avoid it, the better. Now, with that said, I just want to let you know I make mistakes. Sometimes I'll ask for a drink, and in my soda there's going to be a straw when I ask for no straw. But still, all these types of plastic that are used just one time, they create a lot of trash. So forks and knives, water bottles, little combs, they can all end up in the beach. So that's what you're seeing in these two pictures in the far corner, is single-use plastics that people found in the oceans. And a lot of these animals that live in the oceans can confuse this stuff for food. When I've gone to conferences, I found people reporting on feeding studies of sharks, and they actually start to mention, oh yeah, and by the way, we found some plastic in their stomachs. So sometimes animals can make these mistakes and survive, but not all the time. So the less you use these kind of plastics, the more you're actually helping the ocean. And again, I don't want you to stress out in case you make a mistake, but every time you make the right choice, you're doing a huge favor to the oceans. And so that should always make you feel good. So with the plastic water bottles, you can just buy yourself a reusable water bottle. I'll show you mine in a second when I get off of the screen share. But again, yeah, this gets in the oceans and it makes animals not very happy when they confuse it for food. So I'm all done, and I will, in just a second, stop sharing the screen so you can ask me questions. But I just wanted to show you a really cool thing that happened with the Ninja Lantern Shark. People loved the name. You can look online. There's all sorts of cool articles about it, and even this cartoon that you see in this last slide. So this is from a cartoonist named Jim Toomey. If you look in your Sunday paper, a lot of newspapers on the cartoon section has this article, this cartoon called Sherman's Lagoon, and this they did 10 of these comic strips all about a story of Sherman. This is this shark right here, finding the Ninja Lantern Shark for the very first time. And one of the things I like about this story is that since the Ninja Lantern Shark was discovered off of the coast of Central America, in this story from Sherman's Lagoon, the Ninja Lantern Shark is named Arturo. So I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, well, thanks for listening. And as soon as I figure it out, I'm going to stop the screen share. So let's see if I can figure that out. I lost the button because I hit it. I knew that was going to happen.
There it is, just on the left. If you hit the, there you go, you're back.
Hey, okay. Hi, everybody.
All right. Well, welcome back. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's really neat that there's so many different species of sharks that we haven't discovered yet. And I bet you there's a lot more deep sea ones still waiting to be discovered, possibly even in jars in museums somewhere. So,
Yes, exactly.
yeah, very cool. So let's jump right to our first class. Let's get Mr. Ruffin's group. They're a grade 5 class. They're joining us from Minnesota.
Ooh, hi.
When you're ready, Mr. Ruffin, go ahead.
Have you ever, what's the smallest shark you've ever encountered?
The smallest shark that I've ever encountered? Ooh, that's a really good question. The smallest shark that I've ever encountered was definitely a baby shark. One of the cutest of these really small baby sharks that I found is a baby leopard shark. If you guys have a chance, go online and look at leopard shark. They're these very unique sharks with cool patterns, just like the big cat, a leopard. And in San Francisco Bay, we have some of the babies, and the baby could fit in my hand. So imagine this beautiful shark with all these spots on it. And like I said, it was a baby, so it was probably like of my palm. That was really cool.
All right, great question. Go ahead with another one, Minnesota.
How did the goblin shark become extinct?
Can you say that again a little bit louder? I couldn't hear you.
How did the goblin shark become extinct?
Oh, the goblin shark. Okay. Good news. The goblin shark is not extinct, but it is a very rare deep sea shark. So, oh, good. I'm glad you're all happy. Yeah. So, every once in a while, fishermen will accidentally catch them. And right now, that has been the most common way that scientists have gotten chances to take a look at these goblin sharks. Now, one of the coolest, weirdest things about goblin sharks, if you can look carefully at them, their bodies are pink and their fins are blue. Super weird.
All right. Great questions. We're going to jump to another classroom. We're going to go to Ripon, Wisconsin, grade 6, Mrs. Wisniewski's class. And your microphone is on.
What got you into marine biology and exclusively sharks?
Oh, okay, cool. Good question. So the way that I got into marine biology is partly just luck. So I was really lucky to grow up by the ocean, and I also have family in a couple different places in the world, like Venezuela, and I have some family in Mexico, and a couple of family members for a while that lived in Florida. So basically what this meant was in these family vacations to visit someone for Christmas or Thanksgiving, I got to see how two oceans, even though I thought the ocean was all the same thing, were completely different. One ocean could be cold, one ocean could be warm, one could have beautiful, colorful animals, and the other one could just have all these kind of grayish ones because they're so good at camouflage. That's what got me into marine biology. And what got me into sharks was this really fishing. So I've always grown up fishing and still do it now. And it was seeing a great white shark for the first time. So it's funny, I talk about lost sharks and lesser known species, but I completely appreciate how when people see these sharks on TV, like a great white shark, this is what helps them fall in love with sharks. And I thought it was so cool that this shark that I saw on TV that's supposed to be scary wasn't scary at all. It was really calm, and it just kind of lazily swam around the boat, and that really got me into wanting to learn more about sharks, because what I was seeing on TV was not the same as what I was seeing in person, and I wanted to know why that was different.
All right, great question. Go ahead with another one.
How many people usually go with you to find?
Can you say that again?
Hello. How many people usually go with you to find different?
To find sharks, how many people go with you to locate sharks?
Oh, okay. So it depends, and the process can have a lot of steps. So when it came to the ninja lantern shark, the first step was this deep sea expedition off of Central America that happened around 2010. And so there was one guy on the boat, and so that was somebody that helped me, who was like, you know what? I think these sharks are different. I don't know, but I'm going to save them because I'm not a shark expert, and then I'm going to send it off to the shark experts. And so then it went to my professor and our other colleague or co-author on the paper, and they're shark experts and deep sea shark experts. So they looked at it, but they get stuff like this all the time. So they're like, we think it's new, but we don't really have time to sit down and look at its eyeballs in detail and look at its skin in detail. So we'll put this off to the side. So before the shark came to me, 3 different people looked at it. And then when it came to a lot of the work, the everyday work, it was just me by myself. That's what it's like just doing a lot of work with deep sea sharks. But if I'm in the field, similar to what that guy was like on that ship, then I could be with like 3 or 4 different people. So the work that I plan to do in San Francisco Bay with all the field work, I'm hoping that I'll have somewhere between 4, or if it's a big boat, maybe as many as 10 people helping me at once. And if I'm super lucky, I might be able to figure something out where I can have kids helping me at the same time collecting my research. So fingers crossed that that works out.
All right, great questions. Our group of grade 5, 6s joining us from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Mrs. Wowchuk's class. Your mic's on.
How, besides people throwing the plastic in the ocean, how else does it end up in the ocean?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. So a lot of times people that are landlocked, so not by the coast, don't realize that their plastic can get in the ocean. And the most common way that this happens is through waterways. So have you guys ever learned about the watershed? How like in mountaintops where there's snow, the snow melts, it goes into lakes and rivers, and the lakes and the rivers, like the Colorado River, eventually head towards the ocean. So I remember I saw this really interesting picture of people that were going snow sledding, and they bought some of those cheaper plastic snow sleds. And the problem with those, I don't know if any of you have used them before, they can break really easily. So then they had all these broken pieces of plastic sled all into the snow. And so the way that that plastic was going to end up in the ocean is that once that snow melted, it was going to carry all that plastic with it as it went from the freshwater system it started in to the ocean.
All right, and one more question from Thunder Bay.
How many sharks have we discovered, and how long does it take to discover them?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so right now, the total number of described species is over 500. And I'm so glad that you asked that, because depending on what shark facts you look at online, not everyone is up to date. So a very common incorrect fact that people put up is that we've discovered about 400 species of sharks, but that was like 15, 20 years ago. We're at almost like 530, and that's not even if you're including things like stingrays and ghost sharks. Now we're going over 1,000. And every year, on average, we're discovering somewhere between maybe 8 to 10 species. So far this year, I think it's really high. I think we're maybe over 30 new species if you're going to include things like ghost sharks and stingrays. I'll have to double check on that.
All right, and I have some students, grade 7s, joining me in Guelph, Ontario, and they have a couple quick questions. So here's Dawit to start.
Okay.
How many ghost sharks are there?
Ooh, I knew you were going to ask that. How many species of ghost sharks are there? I want to say there might be like 50. I'll have to double check, but the ghost sharks are this really cool group that is completely different from the rays and the sharks. If you look at a ray or shark, you'll notice they have 5 gill slits on their necks, and the ghost sharks don't have that. So they're still related to the sharks, but very different group. Good question.
Thank you.
All right, Peyton, come on up. This is Peyton.
Are any of the lost sharks dangerous?
Oh, that is a really good question. Okay, so almost none of the lost sharks are dangerous. The reason I would say almost is because I don't know how many new species are out there waiting to be discovered. But the ninja lantern shark, for example, is so deep in the ocean, you would have to use a submarine just to go and find it. And then when you did, it's going to be like this big. So definitely not something that you'd have to worry about. And a lot of the new lost sharks are like that.
All right, Mason.
Where have you traveled so far?
Ooh, cool. Thanks for asking. For the research, I've traveled to South Africa, which was really fun learning about sharks over there. San Francisco, of course, Moss Landing. To see other species, I've gotten to go to Venezuela. That wasn't for school, that was just for fun. And I've also been to Florida seeing sharks.
Okay. Well, Vicky, thanks so much for hanging out with us today for our Marine Science Hangout. We are getting close to the end of the day here in the Eastern, where classes are going to have to start to pack up. But thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind all the teachers who are out there and watching and who have joined in to check out sharksforkids.com. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook for all your Sharky updates. Again, Vicky, it was a blast to have you today. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for having me. Bye.
All right. We're signing off for today. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Can you